The pharmacist will see you now. The Prime Minister's plan to take the pressure off GPs. Rishi Sunak was given a clean bill of health when out promoting his plan for pharmacists to carry out more testing and more prescribing. But will it fix the problem in primary care?
We're not even getting to talk to doctors on the phone now. We was during the COVID, but it seems now you can't even get to speak to a doctor.
Also this lunchtime, a dramatic arrest in Pakistan of the country's former Prime Minister, Imran Khan. The Coronation Day arrests and the Met apology will have the latest reaction. No deposits, no worries, a new mortgage deal for people who can prove they can pay their rent. And can Sweden's winning singer triumph at Eurovision again? We look at some of the favourites for success in Liverpool.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. Could the 8 a.m. scramble to try to get a GP appointment soon be a thing of the past? That is the hope and the promise from the Prime Minister today. Rishi Sunak has a plan to empower patients and pharmacists to ease pressure on primary care, the GP service across England. With financial backing for the move, pharmacists will be able to do much more, including prescribing more medications, dealing with repeat prescriptions and doing more basic checks like blood pressure testing. But are there enough pharmacists for the plan to work? And could it lead to the oversubscription of antibiotics, which the NHS is trying to avoid? Our political correspondent Harry Horton has the details.
In February, Deborah Judge slipped on some ice and injured her leg. Her hospital says she needs to see a GP, but getting an appointment is far from easy.
The problem is you can't even get to talk to a doctor, and this is the problem. You know, we're not even getting to talk to doctors on the phone now. We was during the COVID, but it seems now you can't even get to speak to a doctor.
Which you're reading, which I have to say is an extremely fit reading.
There we go. The Prime Minister was given a clean bill of health in Southampton today, but he knows primary care is under pressure. Rishi Sunak's family ran a pharmacy here, and he insists allowing pharmacists to do more will help GPs.
80% of the country lives about 20 minutes walk from a pharmacy, and for many people they're an easier place to access than their surgery. That's why we're investing more in them and allowing them to do more. And it's not just more medicines that people will be able to get there. They'll be able to get more blood pressure checks or indeed contraception as well.
Pharmacies already do more in Scotland and Wales. The government says similar changes in England will free up 15 million GP appointments over the next 2 years. Pharmacy services will get more than £600 million to help, but pharmacists say much more funding is needed.
Pharmacists up and down the country, including their teams, are prepared to take the workload, but there is a complete lack of investment to make it a realistic goal. They really need to have funding that supports the expectations they have of pharmacists.
Doctors say unless more GPs are recruited, pressure on surgeries is unlikely to ease.
We need to see action taken really quickly to help support and retain GPs, because we're losing GPs far quicker than we're bringing them in. And so the time that patients wait to see their GP is getting longer and longer because there's fewer of us and we're working harder than ever.
After a bruising set of local election results, Rishi Sunak hopes asking pharmacies to do more will ease pressure not just on doctors, but his own government too. Harry Horton, ITV News.
We've heard some reaction. Let's get some more. I'm joined now by Thorin Govind, pharmacist and also England board chair at the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. Thank you very much for coming in. On a practical level, give us an example of how this could help a patient.
Well, my own example in practice this week has been a patient who needed treatment, for example, for fungal nail infections, and they were prohibited by the cost are going to go to their GP instead. Imagine what it'd be like if I could provide that treatment from the pharmacy, having consulted with them already. Now, that's not one of the ones currently in the pipeline, but we've got 7 conditions here which we're hoping to be able to support in our pharmacies. This isn't something you're going to be able to go to your pharmacy today to access. These are plans in the pipeline, and we're really looking forward to seeing how these develop. But it's a welcome step for patients who often are sent from a pharmacist who knows how to treat them to a prescriber to write that prescription and then back to us. So hopefully it'll improve patient access.
OK, cautious optimism from you there then. Are there enough pharmacies, pharmacies in the country across England for this to work?
Well, we have seen cuts in the number of pharmacies, about 11,000, and that might sound like a huge number, but you've got to think about the conditions that we've been operating under. Since 2015, there's been a 30% funding cut, which has a real impact. We also have got those inflationary pressures, energy crisis, cost of living is hitting the pharmacies as well. So there is a pressure. We are keen to do more, and we're keen to see more investment in the sector. And we've all seen throughout this pandemic people queuing to see our pharmacy teams. You go in there, you might have a little wait, but not too long, and most people are about a 20-minute walk away. So we need the government to think more widely about access to pharmacies, but this is a positive step. OK,
crucially, could it lead to the over-prescription of antibiotics, something the NHS and the world over wants to avoid?
I find it offensive to say that it could lead to that, because we are clinicians in our own right. I have to justify why I'm providing an item to a patient. In fact, I'm often the person there saying you need to finish the course of this antibiotics so that it has its effect. So actually, we're one of the healthcare professionals who are actually working really hard with regards to antibiotic resistance. So I completely resent that fact being said.
So pharmacists, like GPs, will be under pressure to make sure they're only giving out antibiotics when they're absolutely needed.
Absolutely.
OK, Thorin, Govind, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us. Thank you. Vladimir Putin spoke today at Moscow's annual Victory Day parade, commemorating the Soviet victory in World War II. The Russian president yet again likened Ukraine to Nazis and said the world is facing a turning point. It comes after Russia launched its biggest drone attack yet on Ukraine on Saturday. Rachel Younger reports.
It is one of the most important events in the Russian calendar. A day to remember its soldiers' success in driving out Hitler during the Second World War. But this year, a chance too for the Russian president to show off the might of his forces in Moscow's Red Square and reframe the battle in Ukraine as a clash between Nazi-inspired nationalists, where Russia is the civilizing force against Ukraine's allies in the West. Today, civilization is once again at a turning point, he tells his people, explaining how a real war has been unleashed against the motherland, insisting Russia has rebuffed international terrorism. It is, as always, patriotic and precise, but pared down too. The usual flypast cancelled without explanation, parades in more than 20 other cities shelved, Putin balancing the need to rally public support with security fears after the drone attack here on the Kremlin last week. But Ukraine, which denies responsibility, is still dealing with sustained attacks on its cities. The president of the European Commission, undeterred from visiting by last night's strike on Kyiv, instead doubling down on her message.
Kyiv, as the capital of Ukraine, is the beating heart of today's European values. Ukraine is on the front line of the defense of everything we Europeans cherish.
Two sides both entrenching their battle lines, and one president with total control of state media, ensuring this is the image of his military beamed into Russian homes, rather than the reality of troops struggling to prevail in a conflict he told them would be over in weeks. Rachel Younger, ITV News.
The former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, has been arrested by parliamentary officers outside the High Court in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. He was there to appear on charges of corruption when the dramatic arrest took place. Our global security editor, Rohit Khatru, joins me now. A confusing picture there. What more do we know?
Well, fairly confusing, yes, but simple in the sense, I guess, that the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, has said for several months now that he believes he is the target of a politically motivated campaign led not just by the ruling party, but also, he believes, by army generals to arrest him. He has even said also to assassinate him as well. There were some fairly dramatic images, which we can see now in Islamabad earlier. You can see here, these are paramilitary personnel who arrived in armoured personnel carriers. They arrested Imran Khan as he was preparing for a court hearing today. He denies those charges, and he was suddenly arrested. He was brought out and he was taken for questioning, and these images being played all over Pakistan this evening, and we're waiting to see how people respond. He spoke to us a few days ago, and he told me, as you'll hear in this clip, how he was frankly expecting something like this.
They're doing everything to get me out of the way. I've had one assassination attempt, and very lucky to be alive. I've been in public eye for 50 years. I've never had one case against me of breaking the law. Just in the last few months, I have 97 cases against me, which range from murder to terrorism, to blasphemy, to sedition. So all this is, if they can't kill me, to put me in prison so that I should not compete in an election.
Yeah, and he says he's been in the public eye, of course, before he was a politician, before he was a Prime Minister of Pakistan. He was the national cricket captain as well, so he is well known beyond politics. But he's been campaigning for further elections. You know, this is all, he claims, politically motivated. The government have denied that. And we're watching Islamabad, we're watching Karachi to see how much of a rallying point this is for his supporters, to see how they respond to this.
Rohit, thank you very much. Thank you. More than 400 people have been killed in flash floods and landslides in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Torrential rain began on Thursday, triggering landslides and causing riverbanks to break. It has now become one of the deadliest natural disasters in the country's recent history. The United Nations say hundreds remain unaccounted for. And Israel bombed the Gaza Strip overnight, killing 3 senior commanders of the Islamic Jihad group and 10 civilians. The airstrikes continued into the early hours today, targeting militant training sites. The military said the 3 men targeted had been responsible for recent rocket fire towards Israel. Here, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, has in the last hour defended the policing of the coronation after the force last night apologised for some arrests of anti-monarchy protesters on Saturday. Andrew Misra is at New Scotland Yard for us this lunchtime. Andrew, this has been another difficult situation for the force in the capital.
Yeah, that's right, Nina, and considerable anger this lunchtime, not least from the leader of that anti-monarchy group, Republic, Graham Smith, who's branded this a disgraceful episode. He says he'd been talking to the Met for months before this planned protest about what they had planned. The Met has since accepted that they wrongly thought that his group had items in their vehicle which suggested they were planning to lock on, in other words, attach themselves to things like railings. That's a tactic that's recently been banned as part of new powers brought in to police protests. Now, earlier today, the government has recognised that there were some issues with the police operation, but also defended the Met.
I think that the law is right. It's protecting the law-abiding majority. It's potentially saving people's lives. The law is right. And the police, yes, they have got some things wrong and they've apologised. They're quite right to do so. I don't want to just constantly second guess them, because sometimes they will get it right, sometimes they'll get it wrong, but overall they did a good job. They brought off the coronation without a hitch, even though some people wanted to cause selfish chaos and disruption. And so overall I think they did a good job, even though sometimes they will inevitably make mistakes in a moment.
Now, Graham Smith said officers turned up at his house in Reading last night to apologise, but he says he doesn't accept that apology, and while there isn't going to be any further action taken against either him or the other 5 people arrested, he says he wants a full inquiry into what went on and is also threatening his own legal action.
Andrew Misra, thank you very much. Thank you. Still to come, a new deposit-free mortgage scheme aimed at renters. We'll explain how it will work. And Liverpool prepares for the world's biggest music event, with the competition kicking off tonight. A barge designed to become a floating home for 500 migrants arrived this morning in Falmouth for an inspection and for repairs. The Bibby Stockholm has been brought to the Cornish port town to be refitted before eventually moving to Portland Port off the coastal town of Weymouth. It'll be used to house single men while they wait for their asylum claims to be processed, but critics say they disagree with the plans.
I think it's a shame that it's here in Falmouth. I think it is a symbol of a complete failure on behalf of the government to process asylum claims in a timely manner. I don't think it's necessary, and yeah, it's a shame to see it in Falmouth.
The chair of the supermarket giant Tesco has been accused of inappropriate touching by 2 women. John Allen was also the president of the crisis-stricken Confederation of Business Industry, the CBI business group, until 2020. He denies the allegations. Ambulance workers in the southeast are striking over a long-running dispute over pay. The planned action comes after Unite rejected a 5% pay deal offered to staff in England last month. The NHS Trust will strike from midday to 10 p.m. And the actor Terence Hardiman, who was best known for playing in the CBBC series The Demon Headmaster, has died aged 86. His death was announced by his agent, who said he was a beloved client, a much-loved stage and screen actor. It is a financial stumbling block that can be difficult to overcome. Rising rent costs have made it much harder for people living in rented accommodation to save up the deposit needed to get on the housing ladder. But today, a new mortgage scheme has been announced that needs no deposit at all. Sharon Thomas is here to explain how it would work. How will it work, Sharon?
Well, Nina, we both have teenagers, don't we? And in amongst all the things we have to worry about, I know that one of the things that concerns me is, will my daughter ever be able to afford to buy a place of her own? Now, so many people have good jobs, they're on reasonable incomes, but they're spending so much on rent, they literally simply cannot afford to pay for a deposit. It's a really buoyant rental market at the moment. So the Skipton Building Society are now saying that actually we don't require a deposit at all. I mean, there are a number of other products out there on the market, of course, but they all need family or friends to act as a guarantor. What this agency are now saying is that it needs guaranteed proof that you have paid your rent for the last 12 months and that you have a good credit history. Now, we've been speaking to one mortgage advisor this lunchtime who says this could make a huge difference in terms of helping so many people to get off the rental treadmill.
I think it's an exciting opportunity. I'm glad to see that lenders are now thinking outside the box and offering hope and a potential lifeline to people stuck in a rental cycle. The cost of living crisis has made saving for a deposit even harder, and these people have been forgotten before, and now they have an opportunity.
Now, this deal is available to first-time buyers right across the UK, but of course we all know at the moment there's a real shortage of affordable accommodation. But what this might mean is that so many people who've got this sort of long-held dream of owning their own home, for them that might actually come true now, and they may be able to do so without the help of Bank of Mum and Dad, which could be good news for us.
Sharon Thomas, thank you. The Information Commissioner's Office will not be taking any action against Lancashire Police's handling of the disappearance of Nicola Bully. That news just coming into us. In an update issued on Tuesday, the Independent Office for Police Conduct also said its investigation into an officer's conduct with Miss Bully prior to her disappearance identified 2 areas of learning. The force came under heavy criticism after the 45-year-old's body was pulled from the River Wear in Lancashire on February 19th, more than 3 weeks after she was last seen on January the 27th. Finally, after the coronation, the next big UK event is in touching distance. The Eurovision Song Contest. The final is on Saturday. Tonight is the first semi-final. So, who are the favourites? And can one of them, Sweden, do a Johnny Logan and win for a second time? Rishi Davda is in Liverpool checking out the preparations for the world's biggest music show.
The stage is very much set for the first live semi-final of Eurovision 2023 here in Liverpool, just 214 days after it was announced that the city would be hosting the event. Fans have been flocking here and the mood generally has been incredibly upbeat, but now the serious stuff starts. 15 countries competing in tonight's first live semi-final for just 10 spots on offer in the grand final on Saturday. The ones to watch out for, well, you have to say Sweden. Loreen back competing in the competition since she won the whole thing back in 2012. And Finland's entry is a good shout too. Their song Cha 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 is proving incredibly popular and is very, very catchy. The UK, represented by May Muller, well, they're one of the big 5, so actually they automatically go straight through to the final, as do Ukraine as the winner of last year's competition. Tvorchi will be hoping to emulate the success of Kalush Orchestra. There's plenty more on offer this evening. There's going to be a host of special performances by Ukrainian artists, and watch out for local Liverpudlian Rebecca Ferguson, as well as chart topper Rita Ora. It is very much the Olympics of music. The opening ceremony is out the way. Now it's time for the first event.
Rishi Davda. Mary's here at 6:30 from me. Bye-bye.